Hey everyone, Robert here, author of Expansion Mastery, the practical guide to living a fully engaged life. Are you ready to start living your life to the fullest? Are you ready and willing to transform yourself and your life from ordinary to extraordinary? Welcome, my friends, to The Fully Engaged Life. Welcome back to the show, everyone. In today's episode, I'd like to talk to you about something that's fairly serious. I've warned of the necessity to keep good brain health and to strengthen our mind. And today I wanted to discuss a little bit more in depth as to why and what we can do about it. Now, I'm not giving any kind of medical advice or diagnosis or anything else. I'm just going to share some things from my own experience and from what I'm observing. This podcast is about living a fully engaged life. It's very difficult to do that when you are living in a brain fog. Now, creating a brain fog is actually part of the mental skills of the advanced martial artist. In traditional martial arts, very often they have methods for creating this type of brain fog in the opponent, making it much easier to then defeat them or at least defend yourself. But as I have been warning for several years now, we're starting to see this brain fog creep into people without someone doing it to them. Now, the reason for this is unknown. So don't ask me. I don't have an answer to this. All I know is it's happening. I'm observing it more and more, and it has actually been predicted to increase dramatically by the end of the year. The reasons for this are purely speculative. Some believe that it's just what's going on with the energy field right now as we go into this consciousness shift even further. Others attribute it to the breakdown of the human mind and civilization for mass extinction. Others attribute it to certain illnesses that are going around right now and the jabs or shots that are also going around right now. What it is, I can't tell you. But I can tell you that it's very real. You may have even noticed it within yourself, hopefully not, or with others. And I'm going to share this with you for two reasons. One, so you can protect yourself from outside influences and dangers, and another, so that you can do your best to keep yourself from experiencing this. So let's take a look at how this brain fog sort of thing is manifesting itself. There are consistencies, yet it can vary from person to person. Sometimes it comes through as a temporary type of fog where they just feel disconnected. They can't bring themselves to focus, like to read a paragraph or something. And other times it's permanent. This is just their normal state of mind now. There may be no correcting it. And other times it's coming through in ways where people, for instance, something that we have run into where two people are interacting, they're trying to stress their point of view and they're arguing about it, and yet each of them is saying the exact same thing. The inability to comprehend is another form of this brain fog. This, too, is being noted in several places of work. For instance, putting parts in airplanes upside down and backwards, causing the planes to crash. We've seen this in a small plane or two already. We've seen forklift drivers where their mind seems to just stop working, according to their account, and they just drive the forklift right through a wall or into a bunch of the product in the warehouse. One of the other ways this manifests is in simple things that become very dangerous. My wife and I experienced this driving through Half Moon Bay one day, and I've heard several other people talking about it as well, where somebody is driving along and they put on their blinker to turn right, and then suddenly they just whip left or the other way around. And it's this sudden indecisiveness that is very dangerous, especially in traffic. And I have noticed that if they get honked at or they hit somebody else's vehicle, that they look as though they just woke up from a deep sleep. I actually had this happen, the same type of thing happen 4 or 5 times one day, just within like an hour, where people were just failing to stop. They just drive right through. If you honked at them, they went berserk, like they just woke up and they were startled, and their reaction showed the same. And it isn't that these people are trying to be, jerks or anything. They're honestly just that disconnected that they don't even know you're there. This is the sort of thing I've been warning about for so many years. Well, it's not coming. It's here. You may even notice in the grocery store where people are walking down an aisle and they'll just walk right at you, right into you, or just walk right where you're at and stop, and you can tell they're completely asleep. They're functioning in what I've been calling lately autopilot. Okay? This autopilot, what spirituality calls asleep, has become increasingly deep and dangerous. You'll notice this by the blank expression people get on their face, where they're just like not just deep in their head, but they're lost in their head. There's a disconnect between the brain and the mind, and they have no idea what's going on. And this is that zombie effect that's been talked about for so long now, and how it's manifesting. And like I said, the problem is this is getting worse. So then how do we protect ourselves? Well, we have 2 different types of threat here. The first is from external sources. Those people who are under this autopilot sort of mentality, because they could drive into you, causing an accident or whatever. They could, we're seeing people get run down on the streets from vehicles that just don't stop. Some of them run off the road and hit people on sidewalks. This sort of thing is increasing, so we have to be alert. We have to be far more aware of our environment than we've ever had to be before, and we have to be on the defensive. We have to be ready to move if something strange happens, or we have to be ready to brake our vehicles so don't drive so close behind another person, things like that. We have to drive defensively. We have to walk defensively. We have to have a greater sense of awareness, realizing that these sorts of things are indeed taking place. And it is those who believe that nothing like this could happen to them that are the ones being struck down and injured or even killed. So we must work on our awareness and sensitivity skills. We must increase our ability to be ready to protect ourselves, moving out of the way, whatever it is, at any point in time. The second is that we have to take measures to maintain our own brain health. And here I'm referring to the organ itself, the brain. We have to keep our brain in good working order. So you can look at some supplements, or eating healthy, drinking good water, making sure that you are not abusing alcohol or drugs, anything that causes a chemical reaction or imbalance in the brain, such as illicit drugs. All of that stuff is going to work to increase this sort of brain fog. I think of a lot of drugs, even basic drugs that people smoke, are also adding to this substantially. But I do know that this is indeed happening to those who are not smoking marijuana or doing other drugs. It is happening to everyone. I think it's going to become far worse for those folks, and that's the choice that they are making. We need to keep our brain healthy. The other thing we need to do is to strengthen our mind. That's right, through spiritual practices, mental practices, and I have provided you with 320 episodes full of that. You've got a book full of challenges to work with. All of those things are going to help to strengthen your mind and to keep it sharp, alert, awake, and alive. Mindfulness practices and meditation in particular are two of the best things you can do for both the brain and the mind. And I have been recommending that people get started on that immediately for several years. And as I've said in previous podcasts, we're past the tipping point. It could be too late. It is too late for many of the people that are already suffering from this inherent brain fog. If you're not as of yet, then you have a chance. This is the other thing that we should probably do, is to monitor ourselves and to make sure we don't start making foolish mistakes, like meaning to go into one room and mindlessly, through a brain fog, walk into another room, not even realizing what room you're in, and then kind of being startled awake to realize you're in the wrong room, and you don't even remember how or why you got there. This is yet another example of the brain fog. So I have asked, and I will continue to ask you, to please get engaged with these practices. Start working on them. Protect your mental health. Protect your brain. Protect your mind. Nobody's going to save you. It's up to each of us to do this for ourselves. And I'm not saying that everyone is going to become this way. I'm not fear-mongering or anything like that. I'm issuing you a word of caution because what I have warned about is now here. And I'm trying to do my best to help people not to fall victim to this sort of brain fog autopilot thing. My wife and I engage in many mental practices, and we still monitor ourselves and one another to make sure this isn't happening. And like I said, for some it seems to be temporary, and others it seems to become a permanent state of mind, in which case you are certainly and literally no longer living. You are merely existing in this autopilot zombie-like state. I will say this, that I have not observed and experienced it to the degree that I have in the United States. As I've been out in other countries, it's not nearly as prominent as it is here in the U.S. So any of my Expansion Mastery family from other countries, Canada, Australia, all of you guys anywhere, England, so on and so forth, if you're noticing this in your country, drop me an email and let me know. The email address is expansionmastery@hotmail.com. That's expansionmastery@hotmail.com. Drop me a line and let me know your observations, whether you're running into this or feeling it yourself, or if you're not noticing this. But here in the United States, you can't go much of any place without running into this. And I've been to different states, and it's the same. Some states seem to be a little worse than others, but I've been watching this everywhere we go. So if you were ever on the fence about beginning meditation, mindfulness practices, or other spiritual practices, Now is the time. Now is the time to get off the fence and actually get involved. Do yourself a favor. As far as I can tell, this is one of the only things available to help protect from this. And I don't know about you, but I'm going to do everything for my wife and myself to protect us from this sort of thing happening. As usual, I don't like to simply present the problem that is taking place. I like to try and offer a solution. And in this case, that is the best solution we have. Do whatever it takes to keep your brain itself healthy, keep your overall body healthy, and keep your mind healthy and strong. Now is the time that those things are vitally important. I really recommend just monitoring yourself. If you have a partner in life, maybe talk to them about creating a system like my wife and I did to watch after one another. And when it comes to your brain, good food, not GMOs, good organic, real foods, not processed, GMO, fake foods, good filtered, clean water, and maybe even some brain supplements could be helpful. Just something for you to look into. And when it comes to the mind, any of the spiritual mental practices that are out there, especially those that I've shared, can be immensely helpful to you at this time. I also recommend being observant of others around you to notice that this is happening. More and more people are actually talking about how they are noticing this happening. Be very careful if you notice symptoms in yourself. Symptoms such as just not having the capability to focus in order to read even a few sentences or a paragraph. The mind just doesn't seem to want to focus that hard. Or that you catch yourself stuck in your head, drifting, daydreaming, or thinking very intensely about something while you're engaged in doing something else, like driving. Make sure that you stay focused and connected to what you are doing. Notice if you find yourself being easily startled. You know, like if you're standing there reading a magazine article and someone comes up from behind you and you're so engrossed in the article that their presence startles you. It's that kind of feeling, but you're not really engaged in doing anything. You're just kind of zoning out. All right, I think that's a good term for it. So just be aware if you notice any of that or any other symptoms of mental decline. We have to pay very close attention to ourselves. And then, like I said, if you notice people around you, where they may be talking or even trying to stress their point, and they are stressing the same point, but neither of them can realize that, and they are kind of arguing back and forth while saying the exact same thing. This also comes through in a way where there's this growing sense of mentality where people are establishing a preconception, and then they are unable to hear anything except for that preconception they established in their head. It's not that people are being obstinate. It's that their mind is not capable of hearing anything other than what they created in their own mind. In this way, they form a belief in their mind, and then they will argue based upon that, even though in reality, the other person is saying something completely different than what they think, and in some cases, saying the exact same thing they are. But they are incapable of hearing it. Sometimes they're just incapable of comprehending simple statements or instructions like through an email. This is happening a lot. Maybe you or someone else has to say something 3 to 4 times to an intelligent individual, and yet they're still incapable of actually hearing what you said. So it's like they're asleep. It's like they're living in this self-created reality that only exists in their own mind, whereas actual reality, people are saying and doing other things, and they're incapable of comprehending that. It can be very frustrating when dealing with someone in this condition, and we can end up creating bad feelings over something like this. And as frustrating and as difficult as it is, when you notice this in someone, we have to try our best to address it with compassion, because it's not their fault, right? They're not trying to cause an accident. They're not trying to argue. They are unable to realize what they are actually doing in that moment. So it's best if we can handle it with a degree of compassion to whatever outcome we are capable of guiding them to. And on one other note, I would offer an additional word of caution, as there's now talk in the form of various news articles about using antidepressants alongside the current shot for viruses. Avoid this at all costs if you can. For in reality, this seems to have nothing to do with any virus or illness at all that we may be suffering from, but something disguised as a way to then take firearms away from the people here in the United States. Whether you agree with owning a firearm or not, we have to understand these are still our rights, and we have to be able to see the truth of what is going on, not only here in the United States, but the world right now. We have to protect ourselves, and we have to protect ourselves mentally first and foremost. So be careful while you're out there driving, especially on highways because of the high rates of speed. Remain vigilant, and it's a good time to be more of a defensive driver yourself. Remember, we cannot live a fully engaged life when we have succumbed to this brain fog to where we can't even focus. We can't comprehend. We are then unable to live a fully engaged life, let alone live at all. We will be merely existing in this autopilot sleep state that very closely resembles the beginning stages of confusion, frustration, detachment, and things as dementia and Alzheimer's. One of my grandmothers suffered from Alzheimer's, and I will tell you from my own experience in trying to care for her that it is a horrible, horrible disease. And this is one of the reasons why I am offering this word of caution to everyone, in the hopes that all of you can do what you can to be more healthy when it comes to your mind, and to stay clear-headed and alert, awake, and alive throughout your entire life. Make sure to visit me at www.expansionmastery.com and check out the website there. You can go to the book if you'd like to see some more information on what you can do for the mind and some great challenges that will help keep the mind strong and healthy. And as usual, my friends, I wish you the very best in your life, in your health, and your practices. Take care.